Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the annual GhostRobo Top 10 Games of the Year list. What's going on, everybody? We're really late. I'm sorry, but a lot of people have asked for this. I always love doing it, so we're gonna do it. It may be 2018, but 2017 was a great year, and I've got a great list of games for ya. We're gonna go through them all in one video, all in one take. It should be a fun time. I always love this, and I was genuinely surprised with what games ended up making the list this year and what games ended up not making the list. And we'll start with our honorable mentions, jumping right into it. First up, Flinthook, an awesome indie game, a stellar roguelike. I love that they have upgrades within each run and also within the meta. To me, that is critical to roguelike replayability. You gotta have something that keeps me hooked while I'm playing, and then you gotta have something that keeps me hooked while I'm not playing and makes me want to come back for the next run. And that's where that meta level of upgrading comes in. It's a super smart system of clearing these different ships and getting to a very difficult boss. I love the challenge. I love the hookshot mechanic. I love the charming graphics. I love how you get to pick your loadout every time you go into a run. It's amazing. It deserves more praise. Grab it. Flinthook is phenomenal. Next is another indie, and that is Enter the Gungeon, specifically on Switch. I know this game didn't come out in 2017. It's a previous release on PC and other platforms. If it had come out in 2017, it'd be on the official list because it's my favorite game on Switch. I play it a ton. I love it, and it's just so much fun. It's so challenging. It's so rewarding. It's so clever. Can't say enough good things about Enter the Gungeon. The third and final honorable mention is Destiny 2. And it's just a little mention because I think they really did improve upon the campaign quite a bit. Now, in terms of the longevity of that game, the overall plan for the franchise, I don't know. I'm not into that sort of stuff, and I haven't played it much since. But I did think the campaign really improved upon a number of things from Destiny 1. The gunplay is great. The graphics are beautiful. It's fast-paced, and it was a ride. And it didn't have a lot of stand and defend. It had more interesting level design. It had more varied environments. It was pretty darn good. Not great, but good. And I didn't really like a lot of shooters this year, so it extra deserves a little note here at the top. Now, I mentioned that I'm breaking the rules and not posting this in 2017, so I figured, what the heck, we're already a deviant. Let's break some more rules, and I'm giving you a three-way tie at number 10. It's 3 AAA games that did a lot good, but nothing so stellar that they stood out to me. I could have dropped any of these off the list. I could have left any of these on. So I decided to just group them as one cornucopia of AAA goodness, but not greatness. Or maybe greatness, just not super memorable, okay? The first one is Uncharted Lost Legacy. I am legit surprised this isn't on my list, but I guess it speaks to the other games ahead of it. It's a beautiful adventure. I love Chloe. I really appreciated what they did with that open segment, the big level where you kind of get to go as you choose. I think that's a great test ground for their next game. I think that hopefully is a sign of what's to come in Last of Us 2. More open-ended linearity is what I'd love to see. More developer-driven open spaces. So it's still guided. It still has the artistic vision of the studio, but it also feels free, and it also gives you that sense of scope and of choice that players in 2017 and now 2018 crave. Love that game, a wild ride. Uncharted 4 is still better, but it was cool. Next in this 3-pack is Injustice 2. NetherRealm makes my favorite fighting games probably ever, and I think that Injustice 2 is my favorite traditional fighter of all time. The controls are so spot on, the character list is fantastic, the DLC is quirky and creative, and I just love fighting. I don't have a lot of people to play against. I'm not good enough to go duke it out online. I thought the campaign was fun, but my playtime isn't high enough really to earn a spot higher than this. I wish it was, because I think Injustice 2 is my favorite fighter of all time. So it's weird it's not higher, but I just didn't play it a lot. And I want to play it more. I can't wait for the Turtles. I'm a big TMNT fan from when I was a small GhostRobo, so I'm going to be checking that out. It's freaking a must-have. I think it's a must-buy. I hope it eventually comes to Switch. The third and final is Assassin's Creed Origins, which I really wish would have done enough to push it forward. It's got a big, beautiful world, an epic new setting. It's the best Assassin's Creed in years, but when I think back upon it, nothing really stands out. There's a lot of repetitiveness in the missions. There's also a lot of variety. It's just one of those games that kind of just, it's a blur, and at the same time, it's very obvious and evident that it wasn't hyper memorable. I think the world itself is the best part, And to me, I wanted more out of the story, or more out of the final boss, or more out of the assassinations. I feel like they have never yet returned to the roots of really mysterious plot and really engaging assassinations. I don't know why. I think Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 had the best assassinations and the best plots. As wacko as they were, I love the Desmond stuff. And I don't know why we don't have more of that. I found the modern day stuff boring this time around and very limiting. And while the story was quite vast, it took you to many places, and the cities were very interesting, and I loved traveling around Egypt. It kind of just, I don't know, I didn't feel any attachment to the characters. The ending was like a really cool cutscene, but it didn't really do much for me emotionally. And I loved the new style of combat and the RPG elements, so it definitely gets props for that. I feel like if they're able to continue and build upon this, it will definitely climb the list next year. But for now, I'm going to keep it at number 10. Now we move to the, I guess, actual list where there's no ties. Number 9 is SteamWorld Dig 2. What a freaking awesome studio. Image Informed Games, I always trumpet them. They deserve it. They're fantastic. They've got more games coming in 2018. I can't wait to see what they announce, but SteamWorld Dig 2, definitely their best yet. It is a side-scrolling action platformer with a lot of challenge, a lot of charm, and a little bit of Metroidvania. I really love the digging mechanic. I love what you come across. The boss battles are fun and challenging. I love the side challenges that are very difficult and demand a whole lot of dexterity, and it's a really pretty game. A lot of color, a lot of vibrance, a lot of pop. It was fantastic on the Switch. It's one of those good, 4, 5, 6 hour adventures. I loved it. Number 8 is Little Nightmares. I freaking love this game, and I love it for the atmosphere and the vibe it creates. I think those monsters, those bosses are scary, and not in the traditional blood and gore way, but just in their demented puppet-like gluttonous nature. It's really a game that's very memorable. I won't forget Little Nightmares. I won't forget the ending. The ending scene of Little Nightmares is beyond brilliant, and it sticks with you. And I think that's really important for a Game of the Year list. It's one thing to really love a game when you play it. It's another thing to think back and reflect upon how that game impacted you or your year. And for a game to have lasting power, it needs to have some moments that really stand apart. And Little Nightmares has many of those. I love the sound work. I think they did a phenomenal job at crafting a eerie and just kind of slightly sadistic ship that is sailing for what purpose we do not know, but it's fantastic. I think it's a must play, and it's probably one of the best indies. It was like this year's Inside. That's how I feel about it. Number 7 is actually another indie. We got a run of small games here, although this one had so much development time and Microsoft's backing that it's a little bit bigger, and that is Cuphead. Cuphead is brilliant, Cuphead is difficult, and Cuphead is gorgeous. The animation alone earns it a spot on this list, but it's the fun and creative boss battles that really cement its spot. I am addicted to boss battles. I love clever patterns, and I hate the fact that modern boss battles really end up being a cutscene or a QuickTime event or nothing altogether. I want more of it. I want more gaminess. I want more mechanics. I like that, and I like the loop of yesteryear, and I hate that we don't have a lot of it. So Cuphead really is a throwback in so many ways. It is a beautiful throwback, and one that I really appreciate, and I'm glad it finally came out, and I'm glad that they polished it to near perfection when they did release. Number 6 is Splatoon 2. I love me some Squid Kids, and the online multiplayer is what shines here. I think it's fantastically fun. I can play those rounds over and over again. For some reason, it doesn't get boring to spread your ink and spray the walls and the ground and try to cover as much as you can. They've added quite a bit of downloadable content since launch, and it's all free, so brownie points for that, because in a year when loot boxes and microtransactions plagued the industry once again, Splatoon 2 shines for delivering consistent content at a very cheap, free price. I love Splatoon 2. I love the charm of the world. I'm still not the biggest fan of Marina and Pearl, but Splatfests are great. The single player is inventive and has cool bosses, and it's overall just a phenomenal game to take on the go, to play docked. I love the motion controls. It is, to me, the best motion controlled shooter I've ever played. I would never play it with a joystick. I want that motion control action so I can flip and flop back and forth, swim through the ground, unleash my super, and win the day in style. Number 5 is For Honor. I loved For Honor early in the year. The campaign, average, but the multiplayer and the mechanic, so darn fun. I was addicted to this game. I loved this game. I thought it would be my new Evolve. Unfortunately, the player base dropped out, and so did my friends. Therefore, I did not play it in the second half of the year at all. They did add DLC. I didn't really get into it. But for the while that it existed in my life, I was addicted and in love. The duels were so much fun. The main multiplayer mode was so rewarding. I got really good at the game. I loved the different classes. I liked exploring them. I thought it was a pretty game, and I thought that that fighting style, incorporating Dark Souls-esque mechanics into a multiplayer game, was a really wonderful idea. I wish that For Honor caught on more. I wish that it didn't have some of the issues that people had with the cost of in-game, like the downloads. And I guess I just wish that there was more variety so that it kept people hooked. The campaign needed to be a bit stronger. I worry about a game like Skull and Bones because it's following a similar pattern of multiplayer only with a cool core concept and not a whole lot around that, and therefore you're going to sell copies initially and then it probably falls away. Rainbow Six Siege seems to be their model for this because it has had such an extended life and has seen great growth well beyond the launch window, but For Honor was not able to muster that much, and I don't think Skull and Bones, frankly, will either. But we're not talking about 2018, we're talking about 2017, and that's why number 4 is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Gasp, it's not my game of the year. No, it didn't even reach the podium. No, am I crazy? I don't know, maybe. I loved Zelda when I first played it. It was my introduction to Switch, but I think that part of the reason people love Zelda so much, it is an amazing game, but it also was the first game on Switch, and I think that there's a little bit of extra charm in that. I loved my first 30 hours of the game. I really didn't like beyond that. I wish there were more dungeons. I wish there was less downtime. I think it is a genius achievement for Nintendo, and I have no problem with people giving it Game of the Year. It's deserving. It just really wasn't the most fun for me. I enjoyed exploring initially. I enjoyed the shrines initially. I enjoyed the first couple Divine Beasts. But after that, I guess I wanted a little bit more guidance. I'm not one to make my own fun, and I really wanted them to give me more. So for me personally, it faded fast. And it demanded a lot of time that I didn't feel like giving it. But I did really appreciate what they did, and I do really love the art style, the boldness of the design doc, and the combat, I think, is pretty cool. I don't mind the breaking weapons. That wasn't an issue for me. I like the fast travel. I love the scope and the seamlessness of that world. I think that's brilliant. But for some reason, like, initially it clicked, and then after that it didn't. I don't know. But that's number 4. Number 3 for me is probably the biggest surprise on the list, and that's Resident Evil 7. I don't like horror games. I'm not really the biggest Resident Evil fan, but I love this one. I think the idea of this living, breathing house with traps and with family members that are not only crazy, but dynamic was awesome. I will not forget those boss battles. I will not forget getting grabbed through the wall. I will not forget the noises that disgusting Mother Marguerite made. I also won't forget the DLC because it had an escape room-like downloadable pack that was wonderful, and there's even an escape room like scene within the game. Now it does devolve into typical shooter fare towards the back third and half, and the final boss is pretty lame and ridiculous, but that beginning and those initial encounters with mom, dad, and brother were amazing, and I think that what they did idea-wise should be grabbed and taken from other games, or for other games. In the same way that the Nemesis system was such a bold idea when the initial Shadow of Mordor came out, I think that this idea of dynamic bosses that move around, so good and so cool. And I would love to see more studios, more developers take on that mechanic and incorporate it into their worlds. Number 2 for me is Super Mario Odyssey. What a gem. I love me some Super Mario Odyssey. I was worried that there wouldn't be a lot of variety, and in fact, this game just packs it in tenfold. There are so many moons to collect, and while I think I still prefer the more structured star nature of Mario 64, Mario Odyssey did not disappoint because there were so many wonderful worlds and wonderful moments. That final Bowser level is brilliant. I love how well and how often they change things up, and I think Mario controls great. All of these things have been said before, so I won't belabor them too much, but Mario Odyssey is very diverse, it's very polished, it's very colorful, it has a whole lot to offer, and it's a very long game. The campaign itself, the main part, isn't that long, but you can extend your playtime and replayability in huge ways because of all the moons and because of all that opens up once you do see the credits roll. The boss battles were pretty solid. I love the final world, and the 2D incorporation was really swell, as well as that New Donk City final showpiece. Love Mario Odyssey, but there's one game that stands apart, and it is my #1 title and my game of the year. This was not hard for me to decide. Surprisingly, I thought it would be. I thought that Zelda and Mario would give it more of a run for its money, but when I thought about it, at the end of the day, it was obvious. My game of the year 2017 is Horizon Zero Dawn. I think this is the best game of the year. I think it has the best mix of modern gaming tendencies with old school mechanic gameplay driven focus, with storytelling and characters, with amazing engine and graphics, and it all comes together in this brilliant, beautiful display of what Guerrilla Games can really do. Killzone was, I found, very fun, but it seems like it was holding back their true potential because these guys and girls have so much talent. Horizon Zero Dawn has brilliant combat and unique combat. They found a way to make open world fighting fun, and way more fun than any of its competitors. You could argue that Zelda has a more open and explorable world. You could argue that other open world titles have more to see, but Horizon Zero Dawn I find to be the most moment-to-moment fun. Fighting those robotic dinosaurs is a blast. Exploring that world and collecting things is great and rewarding. I'm never one to go for 100%, but getting everything in Horizon is painless because the actual controls are so good and the moment-to-moment gameplay loop is so strong. And I feel like that's what a lot of these open titles fail to do. They focus so much on building this incredible world and trying to fill it with all of these missions that they forget that at the end of the day, playing games is about playing the game. And it's about your hands on the controller. I'll go back to that over and over and over again till the day I die because I think it is the most important and most unspoken thing about gaming. What matters most about video games is what you feel when your hand is on the controller playing it, at least to me. And sure, there are cinematic experiences that are stunning and don't involve very much gameplay at all. That's totally cool, but I think video games are about playing the game, and far too often that's forgotten. Horizon has a very creative story. It doesn't pan out to be as mysterious or as epic as I hoped, but it really does still engage me as I move through the different lands. That map is magnificently large. I love the inclusion of the sort of the past with the present and how it all ties in. You're in this present future, or this past future, I guess, because it's archaic in some ways and also incredibly far-flung in others. I thought that worked really well. I like the initial sequence with young Aloy. I'm not really a fan of how they try to bring choice in. I wish that that was better incorporated, and I do wish that the dungeons, quote-unquote, were more varied and more fun to look at. Those are a couple negatives, but all in all, it's the moment-to-moment action that is so fun, and I feel like they did a great job with the menus and with the overall flow of the world. There's not too much downtime. It's very easy to navigate. You're always finding new things. They do a good job of introducing new monsters and new areas frequently. A lot of characters, a lot of side stuff. I think the game looks and plays and performs brilliantly. I love it. It's a no-brainer. It may be the best PS4 exclusive, and it is definitely my 2017 Game of the Year. So there is my list. From top to bottom, we have the trifecta of AC Origins, Injustice 2, and Uncharted Lost Legacy, SteamWorld Dig 2, Little Nightmares, Cuphead, Splatoon 2, For Honor, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Resident Evil 7, Super Mario Odyssey, and Horizon Zero Dawn. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a fantastic start to 2018. We got a whole lot more goodies coming, including my most anticipated of this year, so we'll get back on track and be on time with something. Until that time, everybody, thanks again. Have a fantastic day. I love you all so much. Thanks for sticking around. I am so pumped to be back. Until next time, though, drink so much all. Thanks again. We will see you all later.